The Blue Angels won't soar over San Diego this fall. They've been grounded by the federal budget cuts. Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, what the cuts mean for the Miramar Air Show. And there's a bump in the road for San Diego's tourism marketing district.
And I'm Peggy Pico. As the Fair Housing Act marks its 45th anniversary, we'll show you what housing discrimination looks like today in San Diego and what's being done to eliminate it. Then remember the sea lion who tried to grab lunch at a La Jolla cafe, or the one who tried to catch a ride in Pacific Beach? San Diego scientists investigate the bizarre behavior and surge in stranded sea lions on local beaches.
Time to play ball at Petco Park. Padre fans celebrate the home opener. And there's a mystery at Balboa Park. We'll tell you about the case of the missing bonsai trees. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Federal budget cuts have grounded the famed Blue Angels. The Navy says it's canceled the squadron's remaining 2013 performances, including this year's Miramar Air Show. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy has this update.
Every year, tens of thousands of spectators gather at the three-day MCAS Miramar Air Show and cheer on the Blue Angels. The thunderous roar of the FA-18 Hornets can be heard from miles as they pierce through the San Diego skies performing daring aerobatics. But this year, the elite flight team will be grounded.
No one's more disappointed than the Blues themselves.
Lieutenant Aaron Kakel, a spokesman for the Blue Angels, says there's no chance they'll be up in the air even if another funding source becomes available.
It takes a significant amount of time and energy and resources to get the Blues back up to a situation where they're trained as a team to perform and are certified to be able to put on those air demonstrations.
MCAS Miramar Media Officer Lieutenant Chad Hill says the show in October will go on.
The Blue Angels, we've appreciated them coming out in the past few years, and everybody loves to see them. But the one thing that everybody has to be aware of, Blue Angels are not the air show. They're just one performer.
Hill says the highlight this year will be the Marine Air Ground Task Force.
So we will bring in helicopters, we will bring in planes, tanks. You will have Marines coming out, the Osprey will come down, troops will get out, troops will come out of the back of the amphibious assault vehicles, and they will all converge onto one point as if they were assaulting an objective.
The cancellation of the Blue Angels will save the Department of Defense approximately $20 million. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
An agreement with the Tourism Marketing District, but the battle is apparently not over tonight. KPBS reporter Claire Trageser is in the news center to tell us more. I thought the deal was done. What happened, Claire?
Well, today was meant to be a final resolution to this ongoing battle between Mayor Bob Filner and the Tourism Marketing District. It seemed last week that an agreement had been reached, but today Filner said he was not satisfied with the language of the agreement.
So what exactly happened?
Well, Filner says the current version does not fully protect taxpayers if the entire agreement is eventually found to be illegal. Here's what he said.
There is a substantial risk that a court will overturn the assessment as an illegal tax in violation of Prop 26. This amendment that the attorney just referred to does not strengthen protections for the city in the event the assessment is overturned and the city is ordered to repay funds collected. The amendment weakens the protections.
So what happens now?
Well, since an agreement was not reached, the City Council extended the decision until next Monday. A final vote on the agreement is scheduled to be held then. And I also want to mention the Council did pass a resolution supporting immigration reform today.
KPBS reporter Claire Trageser.
Give me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses. What happened to that? We don't have a Statue of Liberty for people coming south of the border. We have a wall.
But also their children.
Immigration activists rallied downtown today calling on Congress to support immigration reform. This was one of many events held across the country as a preview to a major march planned for tomorrow in Washington.
Why don't those people get in line like we hear? The problem is there is no line. For people of a certain socioeconomic level like my family, they don't qualify for a visa. So the only way they can get into this country is risking their lives in the desert. That is not the American way. We need humane immigration reform.
A bipartisan group of senators is finishing work on an immigration bill. It could be released later this week. Senator Barbara Boxer wants a complete investigation of problems at the San Onofre nuclear plant before it gets restarted. Today, she and a Massachusetts congressman sent a letter to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It says, quote, "We have already seen the unacceptable results of short-circuiting safety reviews at San Onofre." Southern California Edison wants to restart one reactor at 70% power, but the company and the NRC say it won't happen until they're sure it's safe. A federal judge in Philadelphia heard arguments today in a case against the NFL. The family of former Charger Junior Seau has joined other former players trying to sue the league over brain injuries linked to concussions. The players say the NFL profited from damaging hits to the head. Today's hearing was to determine whether the case should be in court or sent on to arbitration. The FBI is taking over the search for a Fallbrook family missing for 3 years now. Investigators believe Joseph and Summer McStay took their 2 sons into Mexico willingly, but without telling anyone else they were going. Their disappearance triggered a massive search, and a reward is still being offered in the case. This week, the nation's largest banks are sending checks to millions of Americans who may have wrongfully lost their homes to foreclosure. Payments will range from $300,000 to $125,000. It's part of a settlement the banks made with the federal government over robo-signing. April is National Fair Housing Month. The law was passed 45 years ago to address housing discrimination. Peggy Pico takes a closer look at the problem and solutions in San Diego.
Housing discrimination refers to all aspects of property sales and insurance, lending, and rentals. The Fair Housing Council of San Diego is a nonprofit group working to eliminate housing discrimination throughout the county. Mary Scott Knoll, Executive Director for the council, joins me with an update. Mary, welcome.
Thank you.
In broad terms, what do federal and state laws prohibit when it comes to discriminating in housing?
Housing discrimination in 4 marketplaces, rentals, sales, property insurance, and mortgage cannot be based on race, color, national origin, religion, familial status, disability, sexual orientation, a very range of things, including marital status and age, ancestry as well.
It covers almost everything.
It does.
The National Fair Housing Alliance reports the 4 main areas of discrimination, and what they found is they found 88% of the rental market, 7% in mortgage lending, 1.5% in home sales, and 0.5% occurring in homeowners insurance. This was a little surprising to me because we typically think of rentals. Give us some examples of how this discrimination occurs.
Flat denial of your rental application without regard to your qualifications. Denial of a mortgage loan based upon neighborhood characteristics, whether it's a minority neighborhood, has been the historical format. Redlining by insurance companies has also been one of the ways in which this has occurred to bring about just a massive amount of discrimination in the past.
So people not following the laws on getting somebody approved for whatever it is with housing based on their qualifications.
Qualifications should be the things that are looked to and nothing else other than those qualifications.
Let's talk about specific protection for families with children. What are some of the guidelines on that?
Again, denial based upon the presence of teenagers in your family would be an example, or the refusal to rent to a family on the 2nd floor because they have young kids would be another, or overly restrictive rules for children. They can't go out and play at all.
Let's talk about the 2nd story one, because that's sort of a sneaky one. You've called it a silent sort of discrimination, or maybe people don't know about it. The owner's trying to protect the child, but that still is discrimination.
We call it our benevolent owner who wants to protect the children. The courts have said that's a parental concern, and that 2nd floor properties just can't be withheld from families with children on that basis.
What are some specific groups that you're seeing now being discriminated against?
Actually, the numbers are rising with regard to persons with disabilities. The presence of autism in the family has been one of the issues that we've seen coming into light lately. And the refusal to give accommodations to persons with disabilities who already live in tenancies would be a real issue these days.
How about veterans? San Diego is home to a large number of veterans. Is that something that you're seeing on the rise?
Absolutely. Because of the nature of the injuries that they're returning home with, they're going to have the need for accommodations. And most especially with the mental health issues which have been on the back burner, they are now up front. And accommodations to veterans are just as much in light with fair housing law as with any other person with a disability.
Legally, what are you allowed to ask for when it comes to accommodation?
You're allowed to ask for something that's in the box of reasonableness. And that would be what ordinary people deem to be reasonable. You can ask for changes in the rules and the policies. You can ask to be allowed to have a service animal when there is a no pet rule. You can ask for modifications. You want to put in a ramp. You want to switch out carpeting because of asthma, something like that.
So maybe reasonable might be if you had 1 or 2 steps of ramp, but not asking them to put in an elevator for a 16th floor.
Correct. And it is also governed by what accessibility features are for new construction as well.
What should you do if you feel you've been a victim of discrimination here in San Diego County?
You should garner your facts, make sure that you can give a good story about what has occurred, and then you should reach out to your local Fair Housing Center, which is contracted in San Diego, Legal Aid Society of San Diego, in partnership with the Fair Housing Council.
And I want to let people know there are links to all of these organizations and a quiz they can take on our website to inform them basically about fair housing. If you were a victim of housing discrimination, and let's say it's proven that you are, does that compel the landlord or the property owner to give you what you want, or what happens then?
It certainly does. From the early stages of it, the vacancy is still there and the offense can be proven, you can get that vacancy, you can get the unit of your choice. Otherwise, if the case is successful on your behalf, you can get attorney's fees to be paid, as well as compensation for any losses that denial cost you over time.
All right, so there are some choices. Again, it can be found on our website, kpbs.org. Mary Scott Knoll, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
It's the home opener at Petco Park for the San Diego Padres at 1-5. The team is off to the worst start in more than a decade. With the Los Angeles Dodgers in town, hopefully changes to the park will provide some welcome relief to the struggling Pods.
For the second year in a row, the Padres open against the Dodgers, who nearly swept last year's opening series, winning 3 out of 4 games. But Petco Park has been remodeled since then. Fences in right, center, and left field have been shortened by 10 feet to eliminate some of the edge pitchers have enjoyed in the past. There's also a new scoreboard in right field and new seating.
We brought our mitts today, so we're trying to get into those little seats, and we're going to see what we can do, too.
I'm definitely a Padres fan, but it's great to have the community come together and support, our local team here.
San Diego, go, go, go!
First game of the baseball season is a time of hope, and 25,000 people are expected at this block party. The baseball game is already sold out.
Riding your bike is one way to relieve traffic congestion, and the County Bicycle Coalition is providing free valet service for fans this opening day.
You don't have to fight the traffic. You don't have to search around for a place to park. You don't have to pay for a place to park. You just hang your bike right here and walk right into the game.
And everyone is getting in on this game, even dressing up to remind fans to properly recycle their cans in those blue bins. How cute is that? And the Padres couldn't ask for a better crowd to usher in a new era of ownership, players, and a team struggling to rebuild.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish! It's gonna happen right now.
Opening day comes but once a year, of course, and Padres ownership will have to do more than promote changes to the field. They decline to spend money or get creative with trades in the offseason, and the starting lineup is considered shaky at best. A new report shows San Diego's economic recovery is expected to remain strong for the rest of the year. KPBS Business and Environment reporter Eric Anderson joins us from the News Center. Well, it looks like the indicators are pointing in the right direction, Eric. Where is the strength in these numbers?
Well, Dwayne, nearly all of the indicators compiled by University of San Diego economist Alan Ginn ticked up last month, and most moved up solidly. The first-time unemployment claims and help-wanted advertising were up close to 1%. Ginn says that shows strength in the job market. He projects about 30,000 new jobs created this year if that trend continues. The strong job market is fueling the construction industry. Building permits up nearly 2% in March, reversing 3 months of declines. And the number of permits issued topped 1,000 in a month for the first time in 5 years. Local stocks reaped the benefit of a record-breaking stock market surge in the early part of the year. The perception of the national economy was also buoyed by the rising tide of stock values, but consumer confidence did slide a bit. Ginn says that high gas prices probably pulled back some of the optimism.
So where is the economy heading, according to the report?
Well, overall, the index has gone up 12 of the last 13 months. It only dropped in August of last year, just by 1/10 of a point. So clearly the economy is gaining strength. The indicators project what the economy is going to look like 6 to 8 months down the road. And based on that, Ginn says he expects the recovery to continue through the end of the year.
That is encouraging. KPBS business and environment reporter Eric Anderson. Next year, more than 237,000 San Diegans will be eligible for federal subsidies to buy health insurance. The group Families USA looked at what Californians can expect when the Affordable Care Act takes effect. Its report says families of 4 with incomes up to $94,000 a year will be eligible for federal tax credits to buy insurance. More sea lions are turning up along Southern California's coast. Peggy Pico has more on a federal investigation into the strandings.
The unusual surge of stranded sea lions stretches from the coastline in Santa Barbara to San Diego. Of the 1,100 animals found so far, nearly 300 sea lions have turned up on San Diego beaches, leaving in their wake a lot of unanswered questions and unusual sightings, like the injured pup who climbed into a man's car on Pacific Beach, or the week before when the sea lion crossed the street to grab a seat at a nearby restaurant in La Jolla. Joining me with an update on the situation is Cynthia Smith, Executive Director of the National Marine Mammal Foundation in San Diego, and David Kuntz of SeaWorld San Diego. Thank you both for being here. David, I understand 6 more pups showed up this weekend.
That is correct.
How many sea lions stranded has SeaWorld picked up, and what condition are they in?
We've rescued so far this year 312 marine mammals, of which 296 of those animals have been California sea lions. They're stranding on the beaches from the border all the way up to Orange County, and they're coming in extremely underweight. They're malnourished, in some cases emaciated and dehydrated. So what we're doing is we're getting those animals back to the park, stabilizing their condition, starting to treat them and rehabilitate them, and then we also try to do a more in-depth medical examination to try and determine are there any complicating factors that might also be compromising their condition.
How long is the rehabilitation, and are you running out of room?
No, SeaWorld will never be at capacity. We are committed to helping any animal that's in need of assistance, and it depends on the animal itself, just like any patient. Some of the animals that come in that respond to treatment fairly quickly will be with us for just several weeks. Others might be with us for several months, but our goal is to return those animals back to the
How many do you have right now?
Right now we have about 170 in-house.
All right, Cynthia, for some perspective, how does the number of stranded animals, specifically the sea lions, how does it compare on average to other years?
Sure. So if we look at the historical average for sea lion pup strandings in California, we're over 4 times higher. If we look at the 2012 numbers, we're more than 10 times higher now for Southern California for these sick little pups that are coming up.
And when we put it specifically, I understand that 100 over, just a little over 100 is typical?
That's right. If you look at 2012, there were only 88 reported strandings of sea lion pups in Southern California. Now we're at over 1,000. So that is a dramatic increase and very alarming for our community.
I want to let people know about what you're doing now. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is a federal agency focused on ocean's atmosphere and condition. They have called this an epidemic, and they've got a team of investigators trying to figure out the cause. What are their top reasons so far, do they think?
That's right. So NOAA has set up the team. One of our veterinarians is leading that investigation. And the leading hypothesis today is that this is linked to the food source. And there's potentially a fish shortage in the Southern California waters of sardines and anchovies and potentially other fish types that these sea lions feed on. So the Waite Foundation has specifically dedicated resources and funding for our team to go out and provide medical response to the animals in Southern California. as well as look into the scientific investigation into why exactly is this happening, and is it linked to the health of the oceans?
Right. It begs the question, if there's a lack of fish, what's causing the lack of fish? But we don't have answers for that yet.
That's correct. So we're working hard to come up with a good plan to support that plan, and the fisheries biologists will be hard at work trying to figure out how it could be linked to the fisheries issue.
And David, since we're talking about fish, I presume that if we find a stranded sea pup or animal on the beach, we should not try to feed them fish. What should we do?
That's absolutely correct. Nobody should ever approach a marine mammal on the beach, especially one that's sick or in some degree of distress. What we ask them to do is contact a lifeguard, local law enforcement, or they can call SeaWorld on our rescue hotline, and we will send trained rescue team members to actually assist rescue that animal and get them back to the park for rehabilitation.
And I want to let people know there are links with your phone number and also with the information on the Waite Foundation on our website, kpbs.org, so they can reach you that way. Cynthia, how long is it going to take before we anticipate any results from this investigation? And while it's going on, what can we do to help?
Great. So the launch of the investigation was last week. It could take weeks to months, potentially years, to really figure this out. We're hoping that we'll have data soon that will help point us at a primary cause. People can help out now. The San Diego public can join together and help us with not just the medical response, but also the investigation. And there is an emergency fund set up between the Waite Foundation and the San Diego Foundation. So on their website, there is a place to give to that, so people can actively support us caring for these animals and then figuring out why, so that we can potentially address the problem and help prevent it from happening again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for this update. And as I said, there is a whole lot more on our website, and they can reach out to you to get even more information. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you.
Thieves recently broke into the Japanese Friendship Garden in the middle of the night and stole 6 bonsai trees. In Japan, they're considered works of art. In the U.S., they are highly valued by collectors and often given as gifts. KPBS culture reporter Angela Carone tries to solve the crime of the stolen bonsai.
The Japanese Friendship Garden in Balboa Park is a peaceful place. It's meant to be an escape from the outside world, a place of meditation and beauty. Which is why it's surprising that a few months ago, the garden was the scene of a crime.
Well, in the morning, part of what I do when I first come in is I sweep this gravel, and then I go around clean other parts. Then when I came back, then I noticed there's a bunch of big gaps there, and I thought, wait a minute, there's a lot of stuff missing.
6 out of the garden's 19 bonsai trees were stolen. Many of those trees were donated. Bonsais are sculpted trees in pots or trays. It takes years to grow and sculpt them. Most of the stolen trees were worth between $300 and $400 a piece.
Possibly the way they did was somebody climbed over the fence, and from the inside you can open that one side gate, so they propped it open, I don't know, and just grabbed as many as they could.
The thieves could have also climbed up through the canyon at night. Johnson says they tried to take the most valuable tree in the garden's collection, a 65-year-old bonsai worth around $2,500.
So it's one reason why this one, it was obvious somebody tried to move it, but they found out quickly that it was way too heavy to move.
I've been here now for 3.5 years. It's the first incident of its type that we've had where, somebody has intentionally basically committed that type of a crime.
A police report was filed, but the garden hasn't heard back. That was 3 months ago. Stolen bonsai trees are probably a low priority for law enforcement. But for those who practice the art of bonsai, a crime like this is devastating. A bonsai artist may work on a tree for 20 or 25 years.
Especially when you have that kind of relationship, it's almost like somebody kidnapped one of your kids.
Fred Miyahara has been doing bonsai since the late 80s and has many valuable trees in his collection. He's the past president of the San Diego Bonsai Club, which has 300 members. One of the stolen trees was one that he donated.
Right now what I'm doing is I'm pinching the new growth that's coming out of what we call the understock.
Miyahara spends hours every day working on his trees, watering, pruning, and training them.
In the past, when we've reported stolen trees to the police, I think the first place they look is at swap meets. And unfortunately, because those are people that are not familiar with bonsai, they either abuse the trees or they sell them for next to nothing. Other trees are taken because they know the value, kind of like going into a museum and stealing a painting.
Those trees are sold to collectors on the black market. Collectors will spend thousands of dollars on a quality bonsai, and stolen bonsai trees are rarely recovered, especially if they're valuable.
So usually it just goes kind of underground, if it's that type of tree, and then you just don't see it anymore. It's in somebody's collection in their backyard.
Miyahara says he has little hope of ever seeing the stolen trees again. He just hopes that wherever they are, they're being taken care of. Fortunately, the trees at the garden were covered by insurance.
We're definitely going to upgrade all of our security in the garden as a result of this incident.
Now the garden staff is hoping to rebuild its bonsai collection, a collection of a living art form. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
And here's a quick look at the San Diego forecast. Clouds expected to move back in along the coast by the end of the week. Inland temperatures will warm back up tomorrow, but look for them to drop off by Friday. Looking for mid to low 60s for the mountains later this week, but it'll be the opposite in the desert. Temperatures will warm back up as the week goes on. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.